Spider-Man Homecoming. Easter eggs, references, and trivia. We're going to do a bunch of them. I think we have about 50 of them. We might have more. We'll see. But bear with us through this. Yeah. I've seen this twice. Jason's seen this twice. We've done our digging, done our research, and we found a ton. And I found out, too, John Watts is a big Easter egg guy. He loves putting them in his movies, or rather, he loves seeing them in other movies. So the chance for him to get to do it, he relished the opportunity. And trust me, from this list, you'll understand. So the first one we got going on, we see Ned talk to Peter about after he's learned his secret as Spider-Man. He says, "Can you summon an army of spiders?" Two references he makes right there. One is Ant-Man actually can summon an army of ants, which we actually did see in Ant-Man, and also he does that in the comics as well as the animated shows as well. Also, in the comics, summoning an army of spiders, Spider-Man did do that with robotic spiders.
Yeah. All right. Number two, we got in the chemistry class, we see a picture of Bruce Banner up on the wall, and obviously he's a famous scientist. So he's just shown in the high school.
Right, and we don't for sure know if that's chemistry or physics, but who cares?
Yeah. The science class.
Yeah, for sure. Also, we get Ned in one of the scenes also asking Peter if he's able to spit venom out of his mouth. This is clearly a reference to Venom, which we know, or we don't know. It's very confusing, but as of right now, they're not connected, which makes me kind of mad.
Connect them. Let's just do it.
I do not larb that Venom is not in this version if they don't do that. I will be very unlarbly mad. I will be very mad, okay?
So also in the school, we see a picture of Howard Stark, who's obviously Tony Stark's father, and then right below him, we see a picture of Abraham Erskine, who actually created the super serum for Captain America.
Mm-hmm. Also, we see at the end when Tony is about to introduce Peter Parker to in the Iron Spider suit, you see that T-shirt he's wearing. It says, "I lost an electron." That's the exact same shirt that Pepper Potts was wearing in Iron Man 3 when Tony was having a nightmare of the Battle of New York that apparently happened 3 years before that, according to the timeline. And we see that Pepper is actually wearing that exact same shirt when the Iron suit wakes her up. So
you think he got the shirt from Iron Man, or do you think they just both have the shirt?
It might be a popular shirt because that symbol is the same symbol as the Stark affair, the World Affair in Iron Man 2, and also in Captain America: The First Avenger when Steve Rogers and Bucky are with the girls and they're at that Stark
so
affair.
maybe Peter got it at the convention in Iron Man 2.
And also, because he was there we heard from Kevin Feige and Tom Holland that is him under the Iron Man 2 when Iron Man saves the little boy.
So that must have been where he got the shirt, although that wouldn't have fit him back then. So maybe.
And also we do see a scene actually where at the beginning where Happy's driving Peter, we see the in Flushing the big globe, which is where Iron Man 2 the climax took place there. So, and we know Peter was there, and obviously I got to imagine Queens is pretty close to Flushing. So
when Peter is saving the boat from being split in half and kind of holding it all together, it's kind of like an homage of Spider-Man 2 where he's trying to stop the train and he's holding it like that. So that was a cool imagery.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. And also, we get some, to me, I could be wrong, but to me, these are Back to the Future references or Easter eggs, if you want to call them. But where the suit is very baggy and doesn't fit him, and then he presses the button and then it fits him, it kind of feels like with Marty with the jacket where size adjust, fit. Felt a little like that. And also, too, if you remember in Back to the Future 2, when he's doing that, that's in an alleyway. Same thing here with Spider-Man. He's in an alleyway when he's doing the size adjust thing. So
I saw in an interview, Tom Holland said that he really wanted to be like a future generation Marty McFly. So there's a lot of references to that kind of in this movie. So he's kind of living out his wish a little bit.
Also, too, the 80s coming of age is such a big high school, big theme in this film. So I agree. And I see that. And
he's got the look down kind of, too.
Yeah, well, also the genuine excitement, like, Doc, or Tony. Like, no, you definitely see it for sure. Also, too, we got Betty Brant is in this. We see her first in the news feed with that awkward thing that goes on.
That's hilarious.
Last time we saw Betty Brant in a Spider-Man film was, of course, played by Elizabeth Banks in the Sam Raimi series.
Yep.
That was the last time before she was becoming Rita Repulsa. We got to see her playing Betty Brant. Also, if you know anything about Betty Brant in the comics, I believe she was Spider-Man or Peter Parker's first girlfriend. Also, she is the secretary to Parker, J. Jonah Jameson. Also, she's actually married in the comics. She got married to Ned Leeds, who I think is Peter Parker's best friend. This, even though we don't hear Ned's last name said as Ned Leeds in this, only Ned.
There's not that many Neds around, so.
Yeah, exactly. I gotta imagine, but Ned Leeds in the comics, he actually becomes the third Hobgoblin. The original Hobgoblin, Roderick Kingsley, he brainwashes Ned Leeds and into becoming the Hobgoblin to do his bidding work. So not saying that's going to happen, but just some cool Easter eggs of what Betty Brant, who she marries in the comics. So
Jennifer Connelly plays the voice of Karen, the voice in Spider-Man's suit, and in real life, she's actually married to Paul Bettany, who plays Vision and / Jarvis. And then also, she was Betty Ross in the first Hulk movie in 2003, the Ang Lee version.
That's right. Also, in the beginning of the film, we see Adrian Toomes and his whole crew is, going through the wreckage and all that, and we see the Leviathan. We see that's in New York Central Station. That is the same Leviathan that Hulk and Thor were on when they took it down, and then Hulk punches Thor out of the way. Same exact Leviathan, and also that is New York Central Station.
Matt Gargan makes an appearance in the movie, who is the Scorpion, who we see on the boat and then also in the mid-credits scene. And I think it's them just kind of setting up the Sinister Six and hopefully how that storyline goes.
Definitely. Also, when Peter is talking to Tony Stark on the ferry and he's making up some lies about him, about where his whereabouts, really remind me and took me back to the first Iron Man film, where Tony is doing the exact same thing with Rhodey, where Rhodey's like, "Where are you, Tony?" He's like, "Oh, I'm jogging in the woods. I thought you were out running." "Yeah, I'm out running, jogging in the woods with the roof down." Like, he's picking up Tony Stark traits where he's lying, about where he really is. So I like that. Again, it feeds into that mentor-fathership role, how he really wants to be a lot like Tony Stark. Also, on that cargo plane near the end, we see a bunch of different things in there. I'll mention what some of the other ones are later, but one of the things that's really standing out is the Mark 42 Iron Man suit. That's the same suit we saw in Iron Man 3 that he could remotely pilot. That's the first one we saw him really remotely pilot, where he didn't have to physically be in the suit. Obviously, that suit got destroyed when he put it on Ultra Killian and he destroyed it, and then he destroyed all the Iron Man suits, so he rebuilt that suit and put it on this plane, so I like seeing that back again.
And then we see in that bank robbery scene where all the robbers are wearing the Avengers masks, we see them using the Chitauri weapons that they obviously had bought from Vulture.
Yeah, and also too, there's a few Star Wars references and Easter eggs here. Obviously, we see in Peter Parker's room, we see the X-Wing, we see Ned's got the Lego Death Star. Also, we see an AT-AT Walker, which is, if you remember Captain America Civil War, Spider-Man's the one who came up with the strategy on how to take down Giant Ant-Man with the... You guys ever see that movie Empire Strikes Back where they swing around the big, tall walking...
That really old movie?
Yeah, right? Where'd you find this kid? But no, we see that Peter Parker and Ned are obviously very big Star Wars fans, as well as the Easter eggs in the film, and also the Emperor Palpatine Lego piece. But also too, if you remember in Marvel Phase 2, in each film a character had their arm or their hand cut off, which we referenced that in some of those reviews of the Phase 2 films. Every single film someone gets their hand cut off, a la like Luke Skywalker in Empire Strikes Back. So obviously the filmmakers are very big Disney fans of of Kevin Feige in particular, and obviously Disney
owns Disney.
Yeah,
Disney owns Marvel and Star Wars,
so
of
course.
They're gonna throw it in.
But I love that Peter and Ned are big Star Wars fans. That makes me love the characters and obviously more relatable to guys like me and you.
So at the end of the movie, we get to see the Iron Spider suit that Tony presents to him when he's going to make him an Avenger, and we're thinking that's probably what he's going to be wearing when they're fighting Thanos in Infinity War.
We then get Donald Glover. He is actually playing Aaron Davis. Now, Aaron Davis in the comics is actually the Prowler, the only version of the Prowler we've ever gotten in terms of in the animated series, not live action. We've never seen the Prowler in the animated '90s series. We got to see Hobie Brown, who he saves Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin's son's life in prison. He gives him the Prowler suit. That's not this version. This is more the Ultimate Comics version, and this is Aaron Davis. Aaron Davis is, of course, the uncle of the next Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and it is confirmed that he said he has a nephew. It's Miles Morales. They have planted the seed that Miles Morales, 5 or 6 films I'm thinking down the line, will be Spider-Man at some point, which is cool because I can't wait to see Miles Morales. We also know that they're making an animated film. I believe it comes out next year. It's of Miles Morales. So again, I'm excited to see that, and also the character is finally on live action, but also in the MCU.
Yep, and we get to hear the 60s Spider-Man theme in the kind of opening of the movie after the scene with the Vulture, where they're showing the whole Marvel logo and all the heroes, and we're hearing that old school Spider-Man theme. That was cool. Yeah,
from the 60s TV animated show. I agree. Also, we see Martin Starr in this film is playing one of the teachers. Now, also, if you remember back, he was actually in 2008's The Incredible Hulk. He's the computer nerd that Edward Norton gives the pizza to so he can look up the stuff at the college. Now, that could just be a coincidence, or that could be he was in college at that time. He was an intern. He became a teacher. It's in the same universe. So it's one of the two, whichever one it is. It's cool that he's in another MCU film. Also, we got Kenneth Choi back in this in the MCU in this film. He's playing Principal Merida. Now, in the Captain America: The First Avenger, Kenneth Choi is also in that film. Obviously, he's not playing the same character. It's his grandfather is one of the Howling Commandos, Jim Morita, and we also see a picture in the principal's office at the end when he's talking to Peter Parker. It's in black and white. We see a picture of his grandfather, Jim Morita, who was one of the, as we just said, Howling Commandos in Captain America: The First Avenger. So I like seeing that that family
connection.
Yeah,
that was really cool. Yeah. And then when Peter's trapped in that damage control facility and he's talking to Karen the whole time, he finds one of the Ultron heads and he just kind of throws it aside, and it had red eyes, so it might be actually one of his main bodies. I'm not really sure about that, but it's pretty cool.
You could be right. And then obviously we get a huge Ferris Bueller reference. Before we get to that, I had seen this film with Jason. I saw this with Greg Alba and John Humphrey from Real Rejects. And I remember sitting next to them when he was running through the neighborhood, through house to house. I said to Greg, right before they showed Ferris Bueller on the TV, I said, dude, this is just like Ferris Bueller.
And then they show it.
5 seconds right after I said that, they showed Ferris Bueller, and then Greg looked at me and like, oh, you called that. Cause it felt so similar. All of the 80s John Hughes, coming of age teen comedies, it just had that feeling and that tone. And again, the Ferris Bueller thing is him running through the neighborhood just when Ferris is trying to beat his sister home so he can, sneak back in. And obviously Spider-Man is chasing the van. Also, like I just mentioned, we get to see Ferris Bueller, the movie is actually, someone's watching on TV.
And he
says, smells good, smells great.
Great movie!
Yeah.
He totally says, great movie, so, they're definitely referencing it.
Oh, yeah, they're big fans of, like I said, the John Hughes 80s coming-of-age teen comedy films.
We know that Peter lives in Queens, and we see that he is a big Mets fan because he has a lot of Mets memorabilia. He has a hat, and he has a Mike Piazza pendant, and obviously we love Mike Piazza because we're Dodger fans, and he was on the Dodgers for so long. Almost got a home run ball from him, by the way, which would have been awesome.
Thanks for trading him, Fox. You guys suck.
Well, Mike Piazza was asking for a lot of money.
I don't care. You pay that man.
But he's a Hall of Famer.
40 home runs a year. I'm still saddened about that, but it's cool that Peter Parker is a diehard Mets fan and a big Mike Piazza fan, so that was really cool. Also, we get to see in the scene right after Peter rejects the Iron Spider suit, the press conference, we see that Happy Hogan takes out a ring and says, I've been holding this in my pocket for 8 years. This is a reference to...
I thought he says since 2008.
Oh, did he say... Sorry, my fault. You're right.
And they're all looking at him all weird.
Yeah, and that's
really?
That's of course the year when Iron Man came out, and obviously as we've confirmed in a timeline, and you'll see a video out where I explain what's going on with the timeline, we see that's it did take place in 2008, so they're kind of just referencing back to that. Also, if you know anything about the comics, even though Tony Stark and Pepper are getting married, we don't know if that's for sure going to happen. It's only been mentioned in the film. We got to assume it's probably going to happen, but in the comics, Happy and Pepper actually get married. So I loved how seeing on the shot when he pulls out the ring, you see the ring and you see Pepper in clear vision of the camera, which kind of to me was referencing back that they did get married in the comics, but now that Tony and Pepper are probably going to get married.
So the fact that Vulture kind of scavenges all the alien tech and uses it for himself kind of references the fact how that's actually how vultures live. They just scavenge for food all the time.
For sure,
Interesting.
And I could be totally wrong on this, but I might, from what I believe is correct, but I'm probably wrong. I believe the prison at the end with where we see Adrian Toomes and Matt Gargan, I believe that could be the Raft, which is the last time we saw it was in Captain America: Civil War, where Cap broke out the Avengers who were in prison there. I could be totally wrong, but I had a little of that feeling of that maximum security type of prison where they would send those type of people to. So, of course, in this movie, we get to be introduced to Damage Control. Now, Damage Control in the comic books was started by Anna Marie Hogue, who we see that old lady at the beginning who takes away the contract from Michael Keaton's character. I was about to say Michael Douglas. That's actually his in real life. Michael Keaton's real name is Michael Douglas. He changed it for obvious reasons. Didn't want it because of Michael Douglas. But fun fact right there. I never thought I'd say that in a video. But getting back to this, Damage Control was started by Anne Marie Hogue, and also was also run. The company was also first started by Tony Stark and Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin.
Wow. Love to see an interaction between those two
By
guys.
the way, just really quick, I think that could be an interesting way to bring Wilson Fisk.
Please.
I want to see him.
He's my favorite Marvel villain.
Yeah, and I was on Greg's channel on The Real Rejects, and he kind of mentioned how he doesn't know if this version of Kingpin, because of the way he slams people's heads, if it would fit into the style and tone of this Spider-Man. I said, look, it would. The reason I say it would is because that is a rated R version of the character for sure. Wolverine, you made him from PG-13 to R. You can change the tone. It works. If it works for the film, I can buy it in the tone of the film.
Or just make it rated R.
And one of Spider-Man's biggest villains in the comics and in the animated shows is Kingpin. I want to see him go up against Wilson Fisk, and this is a good opportunity and way to introduce and say Wilson Fisk and Tony Stark, because Wilson Fisk is a big part of Daredevil, cleaning up the city with the real estate with what happened in the Battle of New York. This is a great way to introduce him into the MCU, in my opinion.
I would love that. We see Herman Schultz's first appearance in a live-action Spider-Man movie. He is the Shocker, and he was created by John Romita Sr. and Stan Lee. That
is correct. And also, I gotta say, the suit we get in this film really reminds me a lot of the John Romita Sr. suit from the comics. It's just, I love that suit, and it just, a lot of the visual representation reminded me a lot of that. So... We also get our first live-action representation version of Phineas Mason, a.k.a. the Tinkerer. Now, the Tinkerer in the comic books, he can take scraps apart from anything and turn them into crazy tech, which is what he does in this film. Whatever scraps that they find, they take to him, and he rebuilds it into some kind of crazy tech, just like he did in the comics. And I also love the actor who played him.
Yeah, he was good.
Some of his moments, like, I'm curious by nature. Like, just some of his moments, his laughing.
Very dry.
Yeah, I thought he was really funny. And also, we didn't see him get captured at the end of the film. Vulture went up to the airplane, so he is obviously, he can come back in another Spider-Man film or MCU film.
We also see when Peter's kind of zoning out in class or something, one of the teachers is talking about the Sokovia Accords that have recently just been put into effect since Civil War.
Yeah, no, and that's a very big part of what's going on in this universe, because that's what drove the backbone of what drove apart Cap and Iron Man and splitting up the teams.
We get Aaron Davis mentioning reference to a psycho in a demon costume running around New York City, and that, of course, is referencing Daredevil.
Yeah, they're connected, baby, right?
Yep.
So after that, we get to see... also, we see on there, it says Prowler. It also says Brian Pacelli. Now, the people who created the Prowler, this version of the Prowler, Aaron Davis, were Brian Michael Bendis and Sarah Pacelli. So I like how they kind of mixed their name in there. Also, Brian Michael Bendis and Sarah Pacelli, they're the ones who created Miles Morales and some of the other characters from the Ultimate Comics. So really cool reference there. Also, to me, we kind of get a little bit of a DC reference where the teacher says to Flash Thompson after Peter Parker gets the question right, he says, "Well, Flash, it seems being fast isn't everything." The reason I say it's kind of a DC reference, obviously we know the Flash is very fast. Not only that, Spider-Man movies have made some DC references in the past. In the first Tobey Maguire Sam Raimi film, when he's doing the up and away web, Shazam! And then in Spider-Man 3, he says Shazam! Again.
Which is a DC
character. And also we see in the Spider-Man 1, Rosemary Harrison, when she has just been hospitalized by the Green Goblin and she's finally conscious, when Peter is laughing about something, she says, "You do too much. You're not Superman, you know?" So they like to reference DC characters. I will say one thing. I'm not taking credit for this, if it is kind of true. John Humphrey on the Real Rejects. Love you, John. You're the man. He said that he kind of read into the line of, this is Marvel taking a poke at DC. Being fast isn't everything. You don't have to have like a bunch of movies to catch us. So I kind of feel like he could be right. It could be a little bit of a poke at that. So
take your time, DC. Make some good movies.
Yeah.
Good job with Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman and Man of Steel, I love. Batman
now, as long as Justice League is good, I'll be happy.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I love Man of Steel and I love Wonder Woman. Phenomenal.
This one's not so much an Easter egg, but more just speculation. We see that Tony has sold the Avengers Tower, so there's just this open giant tower in the middle of New York, and I'm wondering maybe if Norman Osborn will buy up that building and start Oscorp there.
And, I mean, honestly, I hope that's what happens, because that's a great way of introducing Norman Osborn, and also the reason why I think we believe that, how many people in New York can afford to buy Avengers Tower? Yeah. That has got to be, with how big that building is and having an event, all the Avengers equipment there, that's got to be a over $500 million building or $1 billion building.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to imagine. So not many people other than Wilson Fisk, Norman Osborn, Tony Stark, maybe a few others that I can think of can probably, do that. So
that would be cool.
During the bank robbery scene where the guys are wearing the fake they're wearing the Avengers masks, kind of like in Point Break, kind of reminded me of Point Break a little, where they're wearing the president's mask.
Yeah.
A couple things to note here. One, Spider-Man says to Hulk and Thor, "Hulk, Thor, nice to meet you." This is, of course, a reference to Captain America Civil War, where he did not get to meet them because they weren't in that film. And it's a foreshadowing for he is going to meet them in Infinity War. So really cool reference there back to Civil War. Also, on top of that, if you notice, he has... I could be wrong. You'll have to relook at the footage, or maybe we'll put it on here. It's either Hulk, Peter takes, or Spider-Man takes one of the arms and hands of, and makes a fist and makes him punch the other one, Hulk or Thor. I think he made Thor punch Hulk, is kind of getting revenge on the Thor punching Hulk back. from first Avengers movie, the Joss Whedon first Avengers movie, where Thor punches Hulk out of the way. I kind of feel like it was a little jab back at that kind of funny moment. So.
Yeah. So when Ned finds out that Peter is in fact Spider-Man, he's like, I don't think I can keep it a secret. I don't think I can do it. And then you really see the look on Peter's face, feeling really concerned. He's like, you can't tell Aunt May with all the stuff that's been going on. He's like referencing Uncle Ben dying. So
no, definitely, and I love how they haven't really gone too indirect with the Uncle Ben in this series because we know what happens. We've seen. By the way, I gotta say that Ned Leeds' his character.
We don't know he's Ned Leeds.
He doesn't know he's Ned Leeds, but Ned in this character really reminds me of Genki Lee from the Ultimate Comics, where he's Miles Morales' best friend. If you look at it's a very similar character. Type in Genki Lee, you'll see the similarities. Not only because he's obviously an Asian character, just a lot of his traits and the way his personality very similar to Genki Lee, and I love that because Genki Lee is such a fun and comedic character and someone who interacts really well with Miles Morales, or in this case, Peter Parker. So when Adrian Toomes says to Peter Parker, how do you think Stark got that tower? By selling guns illegally? Some kind of line like that. I'm butchering the lines a little bit. But he says some lines like that. This is, of course, referencing to Obadiah Stane, played by Jeff Bridges in 2008's first Iron Man. Where he literally, at Stark Towers, he was going behind Tony Stark, or Stark Industries. He was going behind Tony Stark's back and was doing exactly what he was referencing. So kind of Michael Keaton does have a point, but more in regards to Obadiah Stane than Tony Stark.
It's his company, so he obviously didn't know what was going on inside, but... And then, in the end credits, we see, there's a bunch of animations, and we see Spider-Man kind of changing all different colors, and then we actually see it turn into the color scheme of Miles Morales' Spider-Man, kind of like that black and red kind of.
Yeah, definitely, and also
so they're definitely setting that up big time.
Oh, for sure, it's Marvel. They always love to set stuff up and plant seeds. Also, too, in that amazing tension-filled scene inside the car, when he's finally putting the pieces together, the light's red and then flashes on green. I love the stylistic and artistic choices in that scene. Not only the light going green because he's figured out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, but also the color that green represents. His car is green. Vulture is obviously a big proponent of green, and so I love that. And also too, not only that, think about how many times in all the first Spider-Man films, Spider-Man, the 2002 one with Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire, the Amazing Spider-Man 2012 with Andrew Garfield, and this one, all three villains are the main color of those three villains are green. The Green Goblin, the Lizard, and now of course Vulture. So I love the stylistic and artistic choice of how green plays a big role in this. In all the first Spider-Man films, rather.
So when they're in PE class and Peter's doing sit-ups and we see all the girls over there talking about stuff, I think it's Betty Brant that says, she would marry Thor.
She would F Thor, marry Iron Man, and she would kill Hulk. Which everyone can understand. After you saw what he did to Harlem in the Battle of New York, why wouldn't you want to kill Hulk, right?
Well, yeah, and you also can marry Tony because he's rich, and then F Thor because he's Thor.
Yeah.
He's got Mjolnir.
You're not worthy.
But anyways... they were talking about how Liz likes Spider-Man, and one of the girls asked, like, what if he's all burnt under the mask and you don't know? And that's kind of a reference to Deadpool, who in fact is all burnt under the mask.
For sure is a reference to Deadpool. Also, too, I want to add kind of one more thing in there. We also do, they mentioned, too, before they talk about the burnt face, I'm going to add this as another Easter egg. They mentioned, too, that what if he's 30 years old or something like that? This is, of course, referencing to Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. They really were close to that age when they were playing Spider-Man. So I kind of thought that was a funny jab back
hilarious.
at them. So,
yeah.
Also
well
too,
done.
we also get to in the elevator scene where he's saving Liz Allen and Ned and Flash and all them. Well, Flash kind of ran out of there like a coward right away, but understandably so. But you should let the women go first.
Gets the trophy out before the girls.
Let the women go first, Flash. Anyways, the reference here that I'm making is when he's upside down and Karen's saying, "Kiss her, Peter. This is your chance. Kiss her." This is, of course, referencing the first 2002 Spider-Man when he was upside down in the rain and he did kiss Mary Jane Watson. It is also referencing 2007 Spider-Man 3 when he is upside down and Gwen Stacy kisses him when she gives him the key to New York City. Alright, so this is more of fun little trivia kind of stuff, and which is why we titled the video Easter Eggs, Trivia, and References. So we're going through it all. Now, there is a 1994 film starring Michael Keaton and Marissa Tomei, who of course play the Vulture, Adrian Toomes, and Aunt May in this film. And that 1994 film is called The Paper, and it is directed by Ron Howard. Ron Howard is the father of Bryce Dallas Howard. Bryce Dallas Howard, of course, played Gwen Stacy in Spider-Man 3. So I thought a lot of fun little Marvel Spider-Man kind of connections there.
Yeah, and speaking of kind of movie connections, Michael Keaton was in Birdman, who he played Riggin, the main character, and then Emma Stone was also in the movie who played his daughter. She was Gwen Stacy in The Amazing Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2. And then we also have Edward Norton in that movie, who of course played the Hulk in the first Hulk movie.
Lots of Marvel flavors. Birdman connected? No. But he does play
Birdman's a great movie, by the way. If you haven't seen it, watch it.
Birdman's one of my favorite movies ever. Definitely. We have a review for that. Check it out if you get the chance. So in the scene where Peter Parker is under the rubble and you feel how vulnerable he is, and like he's just a kid and had the scaredness in his voice, like that scene really got to me, by the way. I love that scene. But just getting to the comic book Easter egg that we got in there, when he lifts the rubble, that is actually... He did the same thing in the Amazing Spider-Man comics issue number 33.
And then Ned asked Peter if you've ever stand on the top of a building and just see how far the webs can go. That's kind of a reference to in the first Spider-Man where he's saying like, "Go web, go," and all that. But also too, when like we see him, a scene where he's running and he shoots it, and he's actually at a golf course, and it actually has like all the
he's
distance.
Not standing at the edge of a building.
He's not, but he's actually seeing how far it could go because it has a distance markings.
Yeah, definitely. Also, I want to say the scene where at the end where Tony is about to introduce Spider-Man as an Avenger and introduce him to the world. Obviously, he's not going to give away his identity, but just him as Spider-Man is an Avenger with that new incredible Iron Spider suit. But the Easter egg or the reference I get back to the Civil War comic is in that comic. A big thing is the superheroes revealing their identities. That's a big rift in the conflict in that comic. And in there, Tony Stark calls a press conference for Peter Parker, and in that press conference, Peter Parker reveals himself. Now, in that comic book, Peter Parker had been Spider-Man for many years. He was an adult. And this, obviously, is a teenager, still in his sophomore year in high school. So, not totally similar, but just Tony Stark calling a press conference just harpened and reminded me back of the Civil War comic where he calls a press conference for Peter Parker to reveal his identity as Spider-Man rather than in this where he's revealing him to be Spider-Man as an Avenger. So. All right, so also we hear Happy mention a couple of Easter eggs or references. Not Easter egg, we'll call them Easter eggs, but he makes a couple cool things. He says a prototype for Cap's new shield, which after Civil War, of course, we saw it got damaged by Black Panther. Probably going to need a new one, so they're making a prototype shield. We hear about the Hulkbuster, one of the Hulkbuster suits. We also hear them talk about Thor's belt, and he can't pronounce it. I'm going to probably butcher it right now, but I think it's called Megging Joro. So, and what this belt does in the comics, it actually doubles Thor's strength, and he's going to need that because in Infinity War we know that it's Thanos is coming with the Black Order, and in the Black Order you got Corvus Glaive, you've got his wife Proxima Midnight, you've got Ebony Maw, and you've also got Corvus Glaive's brother, the Black Dwarf, and Black Dwarf, I can't wait to see him go up versus Hulk. But again, Thor having that belt, he's going to need it versus the Black Order and Thanos, so I hope they foreshadowed that to see that, so that'd be really cool to see him wear that belt that doubles his strength. All right, so we get a cool little callback for me to Batman 89, Tim Burton's Batman 89 starring Michael Keaton. So when Vulture is taking up Spider-Man into the sky and then the parachute, saves him from Vulture taking him up high, we kind of see the Vulture suit kind of extends into wings. And if you look, it happens right in front of the moon. It reminded me of two things. First, it kind of just looked like a bat in the moon. Not only that, the symbolism and the visual imagery really reminded me of Batman 89 where Michael Keaton goes up in the Batwing, same character, Vulture, or same actor rather, going up into the moon with a vehicle and shining a bat into the moon, or shining its character symbol into the moon. So I thought that kind of harkened back to Batman 89.
All right, and finally we have Midtown Science mascot is a tiger, and that of course is a reference to MJ calling Peter Tiger in the comics.
Go get him, Tiger.
Alright guys, well that's going to do it for this video. Let us know what you thought about all these Easter eggs and references in the comment section. And if you like these videos, you can hit the subscribe button.
See you guys next time.